Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching or listening to this, and welcome to another episode of the Non-Identity Podcast, proudly sponsored by Champs Boxing Store. We're joined by a person who's striving to improve the construction industry, pushing it into the 21st century and eliminating all the old stigmas that are attached to the industry. It's founder and CEO of NUTTNEST. It's Ron Nussbaum. Hi, Ron, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here. I'm excited to have a conversation today, and thank you for having me.
No, thank you so much for your time. Before we find out what NUTTNEST is, could you please let everyone know where you grew up and where you're from?
I'm originally from Akron, Ohio. I currently live in Emerald Isle, North Carolina, so over on the East Coast.
And as we said in the intro, you're striving to change the construction industry. How did you get into construction and why?
So I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps, and when I got in the Marine Corps, I ended up in residential construction. Being that I'm originally from Ohio, I ended up in Michigan since that's where my wife was from, and I started working in residential construction, and I worked there for just about 12 years, just over a decade, and I've done everything from digging the holes to running the company and everything in between. And one thing that I heard all too often was, we love you, we love the work you do, we love your company, we love your guys, but your communication's terrible at times. So that's what's kind of started getting me down the journey to where I'm at now. I ended up in construction because I thought it was a challenge, and I had never done anything like that. And when I got in the Marine Corps, I was looking for that next challenge.
Sorry, before we carry on about the construction, the Marine Corps, how did that come about?
So I was about 22 when I went in. I was a little bit older, and it was something I felt I had to do. Like I knew in my mind that I needed to check that box. If I didn't, I would always look back and say, could I have done it? So I just had to go do it. And that's how that ended up. And it was fantastic. It was a life-changing deal, and I wouldn't trade it for nothing.
And what was the training like?
I mean, it's United States Marine Corps. I was a grunt in the infantry, so it's the toughest training around. It's intense.
Did you find being sort of, over in England, we call like training like that beasting? I don't know if you guys call it beasting as well. How did you find like being told what to do all the time and stuff? Because that's the impression we get over here in England when we see films and documentaries and stuff. It's very much you're told what to do, exactly what to say, when to do it, how to do it. Is that the actual real case? And if so, how was that for you?
Yeah, so I mean, that's, you know what you're getting into. I mean, just like you said, you have all the documentary films, you know exactly what that looks like, what that culture is in the Marine Corps. And I went in back in early 2007. So I really knew what I was signing up for. And we were at war. I was going in to be in the infantry. So I knew what I was getting into, and I was fine with that, because that's what shapes it and what gets you in a position. So all that does is just create discipline in doing the same things over and over again, to where you have that to fall back on. And that's what it's about, is to be able to take that training that you have and be able to, in any situation, thrive. And that's why it's like that. And it's why there's such strict standards and protocols for everything. And I think if you're in that position, you're there and you know what you're expected to do, and you know what you were getting into. There's not very many people that show up to, I went to Paris Island. There's not very many people that show up there and go, oh, this is completely different than what I thought it was going to be.
Once you completed training in that, what did you have to do after? Where was you posted, and what did you have to do?
Yeah, so I went to School of Infantry in North Carolina, and then I was stationed at Camp Lejeune in North Carolina. I did one deployment to Iraq, and that was my tour of duty.
And how was your tour in Iraq? Was it, because obviously we, again, get the news and all that stuff. We don't know what it's like for you guys. How was it for you?
I mean, it was quite interesting, being that I was in the infantry in the Marine Corps over in Iraq in late 2007. I mean, it all starts to unfold pretty quickly. Like you go in, and then next thing you end up overseas. So I say that's where your brotherships and your bonds really start to be made with the guys beside you. We were at an outpost with about 30, 40 guys total for 7 months. And it's an interesting time. But once again, it's what, like, I knew what the expectations were. I knew what I was signing up for. So you end up there, and there's not a whole lot of surprises, I guess. That would be the best way to put it.
Like you said earlier, you came back and then got into the construction world, and you founded NUTTNEST. What is NUTTNEST? And what do you guys do?
Yeah, we're so being that communication can just be terrible in the construction industry. What we are is we're a communication platform. I like to say we're like air traffic control for contractors. We allow customers, homeowners, and contractors to effectively be able to communicate between each other. Because what I could do is I could link back over 90% of my escalated customers to a singular point where there was a communication breakdown, and that started the ball. That started a little fire that led into a big fire, and then next thing, it's a fully engulfed house, and we got major issues going on. And the goal is to not have that initial breakdown in communication.
What type of things is the breakdown in communication? Apologies, like, 'cause obviously don't understand the construction industry. How could things break down in communication, and why do you think it was happening?
So one of the number one reasons is not having a singular platform, and that's what NutNest is we're that singular platform. But there's a couple other things that doesn't happen in the construction industry, and there's not a lot of clarity between the conversation between contractors and homeowners. And one of the reasons that clarity is hard is it's two completely different dialogues. A lot of times homeowners don't understand exactly what contractors or builders or home service providers are talking about, and it becomes confusing. So that in itself becomes a problem. And then customers don't feel like asking questions because it's a confusing situation and they're not 100% sure what's going on. And then the need for having constant updates, it doesn't happen as much as it should. Customers should be getting consistent updates, whether it's everything's the same or something's changed. Just that frequent communication happening there, that tends to break down in construction as well. I think there's this emotion that homeowners feel. They say they need or they want more communication, but at the end of the day, that's an emotion that they're feeling. What they really want, it's just better communication, and they want to have that clarity. They want to know where that communication's coming from. Because nowadays, I mean, between having emails and WhatsApp and text messaging and Facebook, there's so many different ways that people communicate. Having a singular point where all that communication happens and that homeowner can track their project, it takes the pressure off of that. They know where the questions are happening, how that communication's going. And then it also allows that contractor to have a place where they can deliver daily updates to that homeowner.
So if I was a homeowner, how would I use NutNest?
Yeah, so as a homeowner, you download the NutNest app to your phone, and you would do that when you wrap up a project, when you start a project with a new builder, a contractor, or home service provider. Go right in there, put in your information. It'll link that project directly up to it. So say if you're having a kitchen renovation, you'll be able to go right in there, bring up your kitchen renovation. We built in there, the best comparison would be like a Facebook or Instagram feed page, but it's for that project. So you'll be able to see what any of your communication that you've recently had with that contractor looks like. What are questions that have been asked? When are people going to be out at my house? You'll be able to see all of that right there in that live feed, as well as reach out to the right person. This is where the magic happens with what we do. is we offer one-call solutions. So when you have a question about scheduling or a product or an installation, we make sure you're reaching out to the right person at that company that's going to answer that question instead of getting the typical response of, hey, sorry, I'm not the guy. That's Sam over here. He's in charge of that. Let me get with Sam. I'll have him call you back, or I'll get back to you. And that's where the ball gets dropped. So we make sure you're reaching out to Sam the first time and getting that correct answer to your question. And from a homeowner's perspective, this allows to have that transparency. You know exactly what's going on, and you don't have to be afraid to reach out and ask a question because you know you're talking to the right person.
And if I was a contractor, I wanted to sign up to NUTTNEST, how would I do that, and what would be the benefits for me as a contractor?
So if you're a contractor, you go right on our website at nuttnest.com, sign up on there to get on our wait list and have a demo done by me. And I'll walk through the software. The benefits are we're creating lifelong customers by getting rid of the biggest customer complaint in the construction industry. You go out and you ask prior customers of builders and contractors and home service providers, what is their biggest problem with the process? It's never the work. It's never the company. It's always the communication and a breakdown that happened at some point in time. We're streamlining that so that no longer happens. We can increase efficiencies by 35% because it's proven that 35% of time is wasted on a job site, and a lot of that can be correlated back to communication breakdowns. So just those benefits in itself right there, the software pays for itself. But we're a super easy way to allow your employees to continue to communicate with your customers and have it all tracked so you know where it's at in one place. And if something does happen, all of our information or all of your information is stored right on our platform. You can go back and look at the records and you know exactly who said what to who and what that communication looked like. So you also, at the end of the day, have a complete record of everything that's been said.
Why do you think no one's sort of thought of that before in this industry?
So all of our competition out there is afterthought. So we're not a CRM. We're not like an Angie's List. We're purely a communication platform designed for the construction industry. Being that I was in the industry, that's what this is designed for. And everything that we see out there is add-ons to other platforms that are poorly thought out. And they're not designed to be effectively used in the construction industry. So it's not that people aren't trying to fix it. It's just they're not making it their main focus.
As a business owner, what struggles have you found running a business, if there has been any?
well, running businesses, there's always multiple struggles. And I think you move from different struggle to different struggle right now, being that, we're a newer company, we face not being known, getting our name out there. That's a huge struggle because there's a lot of people in the construction industry. So getting our name in front of everybody that can be challenging, but that's the name of the game as you start anything out.
And have you ever felt like giving up at times on this journey?
So it's taken me about 3.5 years to get to where we're at right now. I'm a grinder. I'm a take action kind of guy. And I know I'm the guy to do this. So there might be other people that are dabbling in this, but I'm the guy that's going to do this and going to change the industry. So I can't give up on that, because if I give up on that, the chain reaction from that could be somebody's business having a bad communication with a customer. They leave a bad review, and then that business stops getting contracts, and then they end up going out of business, and he has to go do something else because I gave up. So it's my responsibility to make sure this continues on and I get this to market and I get it in front of everybody I possibly can. And that is why I won't give up, because there's too much riding on it for everybody else.
Do you find, because you sort of wore many hats in the construction world, that gives you more credibility when getting in front of these companies and stuff?
I think the credibility for sure is there just because I've been there. I think it gives me the ability to have the conversations. Like, what we find, especially in technology in the construction world, is you have, in the United States, you have a bunch like Silicon Valley. It gets involved and they build something and put it out into the construction industry. And it doesn't work as good as it should because it's not built for the industry. It's built with a technology thought to it. What we have done is built something with the construction industry at the forefront, and technology just happens to be our route to be able to improve communication in the industry. So that credibility from being able to do that, and then I can have the conversation. I understand. I've felt the pains from being in the construction industry, and I've felt the pains as a homeowner working with contractors. So taking that pain that I felt, I can have honest and real conversations with our customers and help guide them down the road.
With the many roles that you took on in the construction industry, did you have a favourite sort of section to work in?
I love being out in the field. I always loved that aspect of things, of, running a crew or the field supervision and, being out there doing the hard work. That was always some of my favorite. And of course, running management and leadership was awesome because that allowed me to continue to grow a company and grow within a company. So, there wasn't really anything I didn't like, and I just liked it. I loved it.
And do you think that's from your days in the Marine Corps and working in a group that sort of led you to enjoy it? Because again, construction is a team exercise. There's not one person that can build like a house or a street or whatever. So do you think you went into that field because you came from that type of environment before?
I think it's probably not why I went into it, but it's why I hung around, because there really is a brotherhood, and you create the same kind of environment as what I experienced in the military.
We said in your intro as well, you're trying to push the construction industry into the 21st century and eliminate the stigmas attached. What are the stigmas attached to the construction industry?
Is that we're, just a bunch of old dogs that can't learn any new tricks and don't want to get any better. Right? That's the biggest misconception, is that people don't want to get any better. They don't want to move into using technology. That's completely false. It's just hasn't been the right stuff out there. And what we see is headed into 2023 here, the biggest trend is technology. The industry is looking for stuff that's specific to it to help implement it. And we're seeing younger managers, younger CEOs, younger contractors and builders, which is leading into a faster implementation and moving us out of that old status quo and changing the entire industry.
No, I agree. Technology, obviously, there's good and bad sides to the technical world we're moving into, but if there is a good job, you can now instantly take a picture and instantly get it out to people, which then benefits, because it'd be like, wow, who did that? How did that happen? Which then benefits because then it should then bring in other things. But then obviously if you flipped it, if something was to go a bit wrong, again, that gets out instantly as well. So how do you see battling that side of things?
Well, I think when stuff does go wrong, it gives us an opportunity to have a remarkable recovery and fix it and put our best foot forward. A lot of times your best customers will come from having a mishap or something happening, as long as you step up to fix it and correct the problem. It's when we don't put any effort forward to move the ball or do the right thing I think that's when we start to get in trouble. So I think having like that the Insta where everything's immediate, it can hurt, but at the same time, it also can hold us accountable to make sure we are doing the right thing. I mean, think about it. If we didn't have the technology that we have today, we would never be having this conversation. We're on two completely different countries. And that's absolutely amazing that we can sit here today and have this conversation in real time.
No, I totally agree. And on that point as well, with NutTNest, is it global or is it just for the United States at the moment?
So currently we're just in the United States. We do have plans to expand outside of the United States here eventually, especially into Canada, being that we're have a lot of similarities with the industry there. So I've talked to people from Europe, Australia, Canada. I've talked to people all over the world about implementing NutTNest. So it's just a matter of time. It just takes time to do things like that.
And NutTNest, why the name NutTNest? What was the inspiration behind that?
Well, okay, so Nussbaum means nut tree in German. And when we were putting the name together, I had come up with all kinds of what I thought were like super cool names. Half of them I couldn't even pronounce. And I was talking with my wife, and she's like, it'd be nice if we could get our names somehow in there. And I was working with like a bird's nest is what I was thinking, because this is going to be that project home. It's going to hoard all that information. And NutTNest came about. I sent that over to the team with my list. Immediately, the team came back, said it has to be NutTNest. 100%, everybody loves that. And it's catchy and it sticks around and people will remember it. So that's how it came about, and that's what it is. And I actually love it. We get comments on it all the time.
I think it's a really good name. So if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
So you can find us on at NUTTNEST.com, 2 T's, so NUTTNEST.com. You can find me, Ron Nussbaum, on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place to find me. And I would love to have a conversation with anybody that would like to have a conversation.
Yeah, and we'll put all the links in the description below so people can get to you straight away. We're nearly out of time. So one last question before we go, and this is a question I ask all our guests. If you had 30 seconds with your 13-year-old self, but your answer wouldn't change your life journey, what would you say?
I would see, that's a good question. And I would say just keep going. Don't ever stop and don't ever get discouraged. And you'll make the right decisions and have some clarity. I guess that it starts to become more. I guess I would sit down and I would tell myself, make sure you're clear on where you want to go and what that mission looks like, and then go get it. And don't let anything pull you away from that vision and that mission that you have.
Ron, thank you so much for your time. And I'd love to be able to catch up with you 6 to 8 months and see how far down your journey you are with NutTNest.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love it. And thank you for having me today. This has been a fantastic conversation.